here. This is the 9th of November. This is the second episode or edition to Regina Says. There's Regina right there.
Hi.
You don't have your hat on, Regina.
No, not today. I have the curly going on, so.
Oh, and that's me with a haircut from last time. I saw what I looked like. I looked like Wolfman Jack. So basically, same setup here, Regina. We're talking across the conference table here at our facility. And again, you mentioned it earlier, global warming is really very, very good to us these days, Regina.
Yes.
Beautiful outside,
Yes.
in almost mid-November.
Yes. I was having a conversation with people that live here like 15 years ago. And they live in Kansas City now, and they were saying, like, what?
Yeah.
I said, 54 degrees. They're like, no, it's impossible. But it is possible. It's amazing. I mean, I know global warming, we're just joking about that.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't get excited.
It does seem, though, and I mentioned this on my own show, that the seasons are getting longer. And
Yes.
that's good and bad because that means winter is longer.
Yeah.
But fall, it just continues to look like early October, right through November. And the
Yeah.
leaves, for the most part, are still in the trees.
Yes.
And again, your friends from Kansas City, and I can say the same thing. I've been here for 33 years, and I went to Oswego State. By typically this time of year, this is already winter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not. So it seems like a long time, but it's probably off by about 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yes.
That's all it comes down to.
But we are grateful.
we're definitely grateful. Beautiful day, and
Yes.
it's God's world, of course.
Yes, it is.
His creation. So, last week we talked at length for the very first time to get to know Regina. The fact that you've been here for 25 years from Puerto Rico. You were pregnant with twins.
Yes.
And your family's here. And again, your love for the area. And even though it doesn't seem like it ideally should fit, because so many people who brought up and raised here move elsewhere because I gotta get out of here. Regina, you were completely different. You love the North Country.
I love the North Country. Like, I was thinking, I'm like, I travel quite a bit, so I've seen other states, I've seen other areas of the world, and this is home, and it's gonna be home until the day probably I die.
Yeah, well, that's not. I've said the same thing. I told my parents before they before they went on to the next world. I told them when I was here for about 5 years, I'm probably going to be buried here. And a lot of people from Fort Drum who are retired soldiers
Yes.
remain here as well. Now, the younger soldiers, like, there's not enough to do here, blah, blah, blah. It's too cold, and the wives don't like it either. But for the most part, the people that get into the 40s and 50s who do retire stay here because of the quality of life,
They
Regina.
do. That's true. The quality of life, and the more this city is growing so much, like I remember across the street when I moved here.
Yeah.
I remember the pharmacy that was there.
Right. Grant Drugs.
Yes, and I remember Woolworths with the cafeteria and the ladies dressed up, and it was so nice, so awesome.
It was, and it is an historic city, and we'll take another shot of it. This is downtown Public Square,
Yes.
where every road meets. It seems, but it's a great place to raise your family, right, Regina?
It is. It is a blessed place to raise your family. Yeah, I did it with 3 kids. In fact, my daughters, that they are now mommies, they say, "Mommy, how did you do it? Like, you by yourself with 3 children?" I said, "You just do.
Right.
You just do." And if you ask me how, I will say, like, doing it. That was the answer.
Right.
Because it's what you have and it's what you do. And it was good.
Did you know you were doing it, or you just did it? I mean,
I
you
did
knew
it.
what was necessary, but did you ever doubt yourself, Regina?
No, I didn't. And that's exactly the key. I just did. I didn't sat down and say, "Oh, I'm a poor mom with 3 kids." That's my experience. How I'm going to do this? I'm going to work when I need to work, and I'm going to work in whatever I need to do. I was a teacher for around 10 years. Then I waitress tables. I love waitressing. I wish my body will allow me to do it because it's such a good connection with people, and you make good money. I don't know the waitresses these days, but I make good money, and as a pastor too. So I do what I had to do. That's it.
And you have done what you have done in a short period of time. And I wouldn't say that the odds were against you, because the odds are essentially against anyone, regardless of who we are, Regina, when it comes right down to it. I mean, it's all up to us, in other words.
Yes, I believe so. I believe that if you don't have any opportunities at your door, and you want to do something, just look for them, make them happen. And it sounds like a cliche, and so many people say it, and but it's true. Like it's up to you to create your walk, to create what you want to do, and you just need to do it.
So today we want to talk about personal empowerment, and
Yes.
we're touching upon it already. But it's such a simple expression. You know, when I hear personal empowerment, I say get your boots on, get your life together, and empower yourself to go throughout the day. You're talking about it right now. You've done it for so long, but now you want to talk to others about how they can bring it into their life. So first of all, again, my definition of personal empowerment might not be sufficient. What is the true definition of personal empowerment?
I love that you speak about the definition, because there's so many words that are like have been so abused that have lost the meaning. And when I think about personal empowerment, it's just that simple. Personal empowerment. What are you going to do? What can you do for you, first of all, to be aware of yourself? There's so many things influencing the human being without we even noticing. Is so powerful when you are aware of yourself and aware of what's around you, in a way that you can make decisions that are smarter, that you think a little bit more. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to do so many things that for some reason through the years, people tell us that we have to do. This mentality of like, if you don't have a diploma, you're nobody. You're not going to grow. You're not going to be successful in life. Well, that's not totally true. So personal empowerment for me has to be more about I'm making the decisions that are going to take me to the place I want to go, even though I probably don't know where I'm going. And I think that last part is so important, because not all of us have a defined place. Or if we are so concentrated in our defined place, when something doesn't go the way you plan,
right,
and you lose your marbles, you get also, oh my gosh, this is not going to happen. No. You know that every step you're doing, and even the steps that you're not doing, that people are carrying in those steps. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because we cannot do it alone. We need a community, and you don't need to be engaged in all of you are in a community, but you need people. We need each other. There's no other way.
You know, yesterday I was going through Facebook, and there was something to do with meeting a complete stranger and helping them out, and one woman, in a cavalier way, and I tell you what, a lot of people jumped on her and said, oh boy, I guess, she said something to the degree, why would anyone have any communication with a random stranger anyway? And I thought that was so, I mean, again, I don't know who this woman is. For the most part, whenever we're on Facebook, we really don't know most of the people, especially when it's outside groups and so forth. But it speaks so much, because she was a young lady who, in my opinion at least, Regina, didn't get it. So what say you to a person who says that we should engage with, at any given time, with a stranger? Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't make sense, because basically everybody around you is a stranger until you get to know them.
Right.
Like even I just went to a baby in a mommy's tummy. The mommy is not a stranger to the baby, but usually the daddies are a stranger, because the baby doesn't know. So the uncle is a stranger, and you go around. Again, because we're talking about this, we can think about that. But if we don't conversate about it, if you don't stop in the morning and say like, oh my gosh, how many strangers I'm going to see today?
Right.
You don't do that.
Right.
When you're a server, and I mentioned I love serving,
Right.
like, oh, Lord, if I could go back. When you're a server, you are continually interacting with strangers, and you're being kind to them, and most people, and you're being a decent human being to them, because you're there to serve them. You get money for that, you get paid for that, but you still do it in that way. And that is a perfect example. I used to work at Ponderosa that we don't have anymore.
Oh, Ponderosa.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Used to be #1 in the district.
Yes, love Ponderosa. I used to go there, and then I started working there. And it's a joy to see the people that go regularly, the people that that was a place of meeting with other people. It's amazing, the interaction with other humans.
Yeah, and again, so that's a part of personal empowerment. I mean, we can live in our own bubble. Many
Yes.
of us do,
Yes.
unfortunately. A lot of people only, birds of a feather, cliques, people that we feel
Yes,
comfortable around.
yes.
But we can't empower or learn about ourselves unless we interact with others. Because let's face it, when you go to prison, they put you into solitary confinement or isolation. That's torture.
That is,
So it's the same thing if you're not interacting with other people on a regular basis.
Glenn, you got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, we
Yes.
want to be interacting. Sometimes we say, I can't stand the world. I want to live in a school bus in Alaska.
Yeah.
And then we realize that was a bad idea.
Yeah, well, it's psychologically not a sound thing to do, to be in isolation. And let me tell you, I have a bubble. I am a very private person.
Yeah.
I like my space.
Right.
I love living alone. But
Interesting.
I understand that you can invite people around you. They don't have to invade your bubble.
Right.
You
True.
just have to define what is your bubble. Where is your area of comfort?
Right.
Like I said, I love living alone. Every human being that knows me knows that.
Right.
I enjoy my time. I like myself. And because I like myself, I like to be with myself.
Right.
But if you like yourself,
Right.
other people may like you too.
True.
And other people can benefit of what you have to contribute. They're not in agreement with everything I think. I'm not in agreement with everything they think. But doesn't mean we have to be enemies or I cannot interact with you.
Right.
What I have seen is that people do not respect their bubble enough. So they bring people too close, too fast to their heart. So they allow people to invade an area of your life that should be carefully tend to. So that's why the bad experiences in relationships, not only boyfriend and girlfriends and romantic relationships, but even with friends. It's like if somebody comes to you and is gossiping about another friend,
Yeah.
you need to learn, this is not a cliche, this is the truth,
Right.
that person will gossip about you with
Right.
that person.
Right.
So when you hear or you feel hurt because that person did so-and-so to you, you need to stop and remember, wait a minute. I remember when we went to lunch and we were just joking about so-and-so.
Right.
So that same thing is going to happen to us. We think sometimes we're so special that we forget that we are so special, but not in the way that we think we're special. And you're special because you are you.
Right.
You're a human being. But you cannot control what other person do. You only can deal with yourself.
So you're saying it's interesting what you're saying. Well, people they're susceptible to let themselves out, so to speak, too
Yes.
much. I see that with relationships, particularly with one. Her name. She's a woman, very beautiful, by the way, and she's looking for love, and she's just one of many examples of people that just see that have that first interaction with someone that they find attractive. And next thing you know, that this is the one.
Yeah.
So, and then she finds out just moments later, if not days, if a week later, that it was completely wrong. Now, this is just again one example of many people. Why are people just searching? They want to find that hero, just like a Jet fan wants to say Mike White's their new quarterback. We're so eager to put someone as their next partner or best friend. At the same time, we're letting ourselves out, to the world, to this new person, where we really shouldn't be, Regina. And we should hold back on that until we know who that person really is.
I think I'm going to use the same example to a bigger area of our life, and is in religion or in our faith.
Yeah.
When a pastor, a minister, some scandal comes out and is discovered, and you see their church that goes against or speak against or leave faith, any kind of faith that you have, that you choose to leave that faith because the human, that way I don't have to deal with the lady or the female or male, but the human fail. Well, we all going to fail. So why are you pursuing your faith? Because of the human or because of the God that you are claiming to love? And that's not an excuse for the failing of the minister, but we need to come into our space. If we are following faith, we cannot have our faith in the human. The human is there to guide you, teach you. It could be the best teacher in the world.
Right.
It could be the best. I believe in healing. I believe in God healing people and through himself. And I remember clearly in this community, the biggest church that was around for a long time when I was here, when I began my journey with Jesus, I went to that church and I saw healings happening in front of me.
Really?
People get healed, people that were in the joy of the Lord. And a couple of weeks after that, the pastor of that church was in adultery. It was a big case around here that I don't need to mention.
No, I understand.
Who he was. And I was talking to my church. I have talked to my church because I asked why.
Yeah, what happened?
Why this man was able to heal and to move in these things when he was sinning. He was already in sin. And I received an answer, and it's not because of him, it's because of the people that need it. You know, it's about what you're receiving. So many people left the faith at that time, and they still around in different churches. And I have spoken with some of them through the years, and it's such pain in their heart and in areas of their life that are hurt. I'm like, you need to have your own experience. If you're Christian, you need to know your Bible, read your Bible. If you're from Buddha, read whatever Buddha gives you. If you're a Muslim, do the same. You have to be in connection with something greater than you. And that human, you and me, we are humans. We have the capacity of evil and bad things, and we have the capacity of good things. We both are the same, you know. So once we stop idolizing humans, the way people idolize humans, you can come into your space. You will stop being so judgmental. You will stop having burdens that are not your burdens. You will have so much power by seeing yourself in power. Because look at media these days. People don't even understand. These are stories made. Have you ever find yourself bopping, you know, like this?
To the music, especially driving.
But let's say that you don't listen to radio. I don't listen to radio. And when you go to the store, especially in Puerto Rico, the music is always going, like it's so noisy. You go to Puerto Rico, and even if you don't do yourself seek a song, you're going to be singing that song because our ears don't stop listening. They are always collecting information. Our senses are always collecting information. So you can hear yourself, your kids in the buses, the songs that they put in the buses here. Oh my Lord.
Go to bed. Not good. Not good.
No. I mean, I hear little kids, 5, 6 years old, singing songs that I'm like, where did they get this song? Because I know their parents don't practice or don't listen to this song. Where they come from the bus. They're just sitting there for 45 minutes, listening to something, coming to their ears, and it's going to come out of their mouth because it's already ingrained here. So when you understand that and you don't see yourself above that reality, because the only way you can combat that is by being aware. Being aware of what you're listening, and
what your children are listening to too.
Exactly.
Which a lot of times they don't have any. My mom didn't have any control of what I listened to. But I wasn't listening to Travis Scott. I mean, that's just satanic stuff.
Oh my gosh, they listen to crazy things, songs, lyrics that are not.
It's not lyrics. It's not music.
No, it's just words rhyming. It's rhyming.
A lot of it doesn't even do that. I mean. I'm older than you, Regina, but you know.
Are you? I'm 54.
I'm 50. Oh, well, thank you, Regina. I'm 50. I'm going to be 59 next month.
Oh,
but here's the thing. I grew up in Queens, and I wasn't. Hip hop started in Cypress Hill. I mean, the Sugar Hill Gang was like 4 miles away, and they were doing, just little stuff that was different. But it was talent, and it took a while. But now it's not talent anymore. So just to touch on what just happened the other day in Houston, where 8 people perished. And what happens is with a tragedy like that, you learn crowd control obviously is something that's very imperative. And I know in the back of my mind what hip hop is, but then you start learning what Travis Scott is. I hope I'm getting his name right. He's the baby daddy to the Kylie Jenner, one of the Kardashians. And he's just a raw, mean person. And he's totally into satanic, visuals and so forth. But more importantly, I can give him credit But even his music and his lyrics and his voice capacity, for that matter, Kanye West isn't Elton John, in my opinion, or for that matter, Otis Redding. Real artists who back in the day worked hard to learn all that stuff. But these kids, the very diverse crowd, mind you, was at that concert, thousands of which. And it's just like, again, I know we're off the beaten path here, but our kids are learning the wrong music, Regina, and that's not a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, I would not call it the wrong music
Yeah.
only. Is those, when you are aware of your senses collecting information, those kind of words stay inside of you.
Yeah, they do.
Stay inside of the child. And when you hear a 3-4-year-old bursting out words that I have not ever said in my life,
Profanity.
yes, you have to ask yourself how is that benefiting my child?
Yeah.
But how is that coming into my child's head and out of their mouth? And also, you have to immediately, as a parent, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I am going to correct this behavior. You don't have to yell. You don't have to scream. You just have to explain to your child.
Right.
Because maybe I don't use profanity. I don't use
You
bad
don't.
words.
You don't.
Not even in Spanish or in English.
Uh-huh.
That's my own thing.
Sure.
Like yesterday, I was in buying some things for my restaurant, and a guy came in. I was sitting on a chair, and he said some bad words. We call it bad words.
Yeah, sure.
In English, and he's like, "Excuse me, sorry, ma'am." I'm like, "No problem." I was so touched that he did that.
That he actually
He
apologized.
apologized.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was in his environment of
Right,
work,
right.
and it doesn't offend me at all.
A lot of people won't do that.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't heard "sorry, ma'am" in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
years
Right,
and years
right.
here, because it's so normal, especially in the United States. I have noticed it's so in Spanish too. So it's not especially; it's everywhere.
Right, sure.
It's so normal for so many
And
people.
the N-word.
And all those words, but
The N-word is used so often from
It
kids.
is.
And of all, yeah,
It
go ahead.
is.
Sorry.
But it's like talking about empowerment. Why would I feel offended for what he said? He was expressing himself with another person that obviously expressed himself the same way.
Yeah.
They're having their moment,
Right,
like
right.
I'm there for a few
Well, yeah.
time of my life.
Short window.
Exactly. So why would I take the time to feel like, oh my gosh, he didn't respect that I'm a woman and all that? Why would I do that? It will drain my energy. I was booking a ticket to Puerto Rico.
Were you
You
really?
know?
Yeah,
At
yeah.
the same time.
Funny.
I'm like, I don't have time for engaging my heart, my brain cells. We keep losing them because we don't use them.
Right.
So I don't have time to
Good point.
to have my brain cells engaged
Right.
into feeling
Right.
a certain way because of a decision that he make that is normal for
Right.
him. It's like the example that we talk about the music. We talk of camera last week, and it's like you just do something. If something is bothering you, you have to ask yourself, is it worthy for me to have this moment that can give me a heart attack, like I said, or to alter my state of being? That's empowerment. When you can remain in your composure, that is also beautiful. It's like, okay, somebody needs to be, they say in English, the hero. It's not a hero, it's just being human.
Well, and that's very well said, by the way. But I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Some people get ballistic when they're under the influence. You
of
go to
course.
a bar, and they're at a level that you're not at, and you feel like, okay, if I make eye contact with this person, I'm going to have to be a victim here. Again, these are different things that are
Yeah.
human
Oh,
nature.
yeah.
Some people are a little bit more stingy about it than others. Most people will just look away. But the respect thing that you said, a lot of times when you feel people are offending you from a distance, especially if there's a child there, you're going to speak up. It's going to be that moment where it might escalate into something, but you have to speak up at that point. But it is a moment where, if you feel like you're being invaded with bad, poor language or behavior nearby, you feel disrespected from that. And if you don't do anything, you walk away from it and you bank that in your back of your head, Regina. At least I do, and I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And we want respect. Aretha Franklin wrote about it, one of the most famous songs ever. But sometimes we're just not getting it today. And someone walking into your establishment, for instance, with their hat on, is disrespectful. But unfortunately, it's part of today's society, and it's been that way for a while now.
Well, I didn't know that was disrespectful.
Really? Okay. No,
Because I use
yeah.
hats
Okay.
continually. There's some people that think
Not your hats. Your hats are your hats are
you're
different.
thinking ball cap.
Yeah, a ball cap, but no, it's more. I'm just talking about a guy who comes in with a Pittsburgh Steeler hat and he's sitting down at at a restaurant, and it doesn't have to be like a Buffalo Wild Wings. I get that, but sit down restaurant or a funeral that I went to recently,
Yeah.
wearing hats. It's just a ball cap.
Oh, okay.
To me, at least traditionally, that's not the right thing to do.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
so you bank that. You say, well, that was
But
wrong.
you said a word that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Your tradition is not my tradition.
That's true.
So in that case, putting you, the person that think that's the disrespectful, it's easier and it's healthier for you to put yourself in other people's shoes. It's called empathy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And we usually think about empathy when a person die or something like very tragic. But if we are really practitioners of empathy,
Yeah.
we won't be as stressed out as we are.
Interesting.
We'll be so much calm, so much chilling. That's his right.
Right.
For wear a hat if that's what he thinks. It's okay. In my house, let's say is your funeral and
Yeah,
you I don't want anybody with hats.
Right,
you
right,
have that right to do that
To say
because
that.
that's your space.
Sure.
So if we learn to be more empathy, practice more empathy with each other, like in the little things in life, because it's not a big deal. It's honestly not a big deal. If when we have traditions and we don't look at them,
Right.
we will put a weight on something that is really not that important.
That's true.
you
Right,
know,
right. Yeah, right.
and that's
Right.
I think that's self-awareness is self-empowerment. To be aware of who you are, what you think, and why you think like that. Especially because we live in a country, a beautiful, amazing country, that give us the opportunity to interact with people that we years ago we could not interact.
Right.
We give us the opportunity to be around other humans
Right.
that have other experiences that can help me, have that capacity to help me, or that I have the right and the liberty of saying, you know what, I don't want to engage with this. You cannot do that in many countries. You cannot just, if they tell you, when you are a child, you're, at least the way I was raised,
Sure.
when mommy said, sit there,
Right.
I sit there.
Right.
I could be standing up in my head.
Right.
I could be in my heart thinking like, this is so unfair, blah, 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 but I sit.
Right. Exactly.
Because my mom told me to sit. One of the beautiful things of growing up is the capacity to make decisions. It's a gift. It's amazing. It's a gift that we receive for growing up and walking in a path that doesn't interrupt your path, that doesn't come against you. So you walk on your lane, I walk in my lane. We can look at each other like, hey, how are you?
Right.
I could see a church. Your church is beautiful. It's a
Right.
beautiful color. And that can impact my life. But I choose that. I choose that. I choose what goes in my head much more than many people do. Like, I'm like, why are you thinking about that happened 2 weeks ago?
Right, right.
And you still having
get over it.
internal
Right.
dialogue.
Right.
Is what shape us. Our internal dialogue. You could be telling me, oh, Regina, you look so beautiful. You have experienced that with me. Like you said, oh, that picture is so nice. I'm like, I don't like that picture at all. You're like, oh, no, it looks nice. My internal dialogue is stronger than your words.
Why is that? Why is that?
It is because you cannot get rid of you.
Right. So we're more. Our heads are more powerful than our
They
thoughts
are.
because we're so.
They
I mean,
are.
I remember years ago there was a guy by the name of John Davison. He was a TV star, perfect looking, not a blemish on his face. And this was during the '70s where I had zits all over me. So I was self-conscious of that. I still am. So, and here it is. One day he said at a talk show, and he's talking about himself. He says, I look at the mirror in the morning. I look at myself, and I said all the mistakes I've made, and
Yep.
and I'm looking at him. John Davison was the best looking guy in the world, and I remember that because I was like 15 at the time. I said, well, if that guy can look at himself and he says he's flawed, then anyone can say
Yeah.
they're flawed.
Yeah.
And again, this is just one of the things that you take away from your life experiences. That's just one example.
Amen.
But we're all flawed. But at the same time, a lot of people, like that woman who says, "Why do we want to interact with strangers?" She's almost like a lot of people's comments was like, "What is your world so freaking perfect?" No, it's not. But again, unfortunately, we're definitely in an era, and we've been in this way where it's the me generation. That was something from the '70s, but a lot of people people know their shortcomings, but they don't want to really admit to it. Regina,
I don't know. I rather think about what can I do. Like I was checking out on Instagram on the other day, and what I can choose what I want in my Instagram. Like I saw, because I look at a reel of this man that I don't even know the name because I'm horrible with names.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I had 3 posts of him, and I'm like, why are you in my Instagram? I don't follow you. Why are you here? So what do? I hide.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear you.
Right.
Like I saw you in a reel because I have moments that I go choo.
You go through your timeline.
And then because he happened to be my reels, he has no right to post in my Instagram. That's how I visualize.
I agree.
And then I would do hide.
Right.
If he comes again, I will do hide again.
Sure.
And if I don't know if I can do something else,
You
so he doesn't
could
come.
get him off altogether. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So exactly. So empower yourself. There's this documentary in Netflix, and that is The Social Dilemma. 2020 documentary was nominated to a whole bunch of awards and things.
So it was just last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
the
watched
social media dilemma is the name of it?
I think the social
Yeah,
dilemma.
okay, got it,
Social
got it.
dilemma.
Yeah, sure.
And that documentary, I watch it. I don't have Netflix. I have somebody that I was staying with me, and they do have Netflix. I cut Netflix when
I did too.
The French thingy happened.
The French thing, you didn't like that at all.
But
A lot of people
I
did.
like the British baking show, so I'm happy that. So
hilarious.
but he put the Netflix because I wanted my church to watch this documentary because I've been talking about this for years.
Right.
Like the empowerment that we get, we don't have to follow the crowd. Because I do crowd, because sometimes it's like 1,000 people that have more money than you and me,
Right.
and have the influence to let you feel like you're a minority, that you cannot do this, that all those things
Yeah, sure.
are all about feeling, and it's because of the projection. So I watched The Social Dilemma, and it's incredible because I'm like, wow, this is out in the world. Like anybody can see this and understand
Right.
that psychologically we can do so much more for ourselves when we stop, when we choose, I want to watch this, and ask yourself why.
Right.
Why you think the way you think? Why? Where is that coming from? Like I mentioned last week, the things that we go through as a child,
Right.
there's trauma. There's so many people with trauma that don't even know have trauma, but you can see it in the life choices. You can see, like, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for you to get out of your house angry all the time
Right.
and think that's okay.
Right.
That means that you learn that behavior. You're not angry unless you have something messed up in your brain.
Right.
You don't get angry unless you learn to be angry.
Right.
It's just like that.
I agree.
And then, so you don't have to be a psychologist. You don't have to be a person that have a diploma in this. I have a business, bachelor's degree in business with concentration in management.
Nice.
And what you learn in marketing, I mean, I'm talking 1992
Yeah.
is when I graduated. What you learn about marketing has not changed. It's the same. Marketing is the same. What has changed is the vehicles, the venues
Yeah.
For marketing. So one thing that I completely learned in marketing is like you can manipulate anybody. It's so easy. Just visuals, because our 5 plus senses are collecting information, because
Sure.
that's how we are formed as a human.
Right.
You know, like a child is not born speaking profanity.
Right. It's true.
No child.
Right.
Every child is born
Right.
with the capacity to learn. So what you it's a blank canvas.
Yeah.
That's what Dr. Phil called it. It's a white canvas.
Did you say Dr. Phil?
Uh-huh.
Now let's call it a blind canvas. Sorry.
Because it is something that I always say. You have a child, and then he's giving you problems at 3, 4 years old. I was a pre-K teacher, so I saw many things for 10 years.
Yeah, sure.
That was a privilege. And I learned, I'm like, your child screams from the time you bring it here to the
Amazing.
day it goes.
Right.
And I saw what love and caring for a child can change. We had a child. I call him Chucky. He wasn't named Chucky.
Wait, I'm sorry. That was his choking was his name?
No, Chucky.
Oh, Chalky.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we call him Chucky
Gotcha.
because he was insane. Like, this child was uncontrollable.
Attention deficit, all that stuff.
Crying,
Yeah.
hitting, and not.
Combative.
And he wasn't born like that.
No.
It was something learned.
Well,
It's-
but sometimes
some of them.
sometimes it's sugar levels, drug addiction,
Eh,
alcohol, and sometimes none of those things. But it happens. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The point is, it doesn't matter if it's like something in the brain. It doesn't matter where
Right,
it comes from.
right.
That child doesn't have the capacity to deal with himself
Mm-hmm.
because you, as a parent, have to find a way
Mm-hmm.
to deal with him. I don't go back. My daughters, I had 2 grandbabies that are 6 years old. She's like, Mommy, go back, go back. I'm like, I cannot go back 'cause I cannot hug children anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot give them love. I cannot let them know the way we humans need by touching them, by, caress them. I cannot let them know that they are going to be okay in this period of time. So I won't go back. They probably will put me in jail because
Right.
I will hug that child.
Sure.
I will speak to that child. I will spend time with that child so that child can hear that he's going to be okay. And whatever is needed for that, maybe it could be a brain injury.
Sure.
Maybe it could be, there's so many causes. But the causes doesn't prevent you
Sure.
from trying to do something.
I mean, what comes to mind, Regina, is the story of Helen Keller and the miracle worker, Sullivan. I'm forgetting her first name. She was the miracle worker. And Helen Keller, as a young child, lost her senses. She lost her eyesight. The good news was her family had enough influence and money. She lived in Alabama, I believe, and they got someone. Anne Sullivan was her name. She was the miracle worker, and of course, this was portrayed in a movie with the late great Patty Duke. And as far as what was able, they communicate. The miracle worker communicated with Helen Keller, and if it wasn't for Helen, she would have just been deaf and blind and banging into walls and combative and whatnot. It's a hard movie to watch. It's based obviously on a true story, but to me, it's an extreme example of what you're talking about. You're talking about a child who couldn't see, hear, or speak, but still had all of her faculty, and then later became a Rhodes Scholar. So no, there's an example of like if you could do that. You could take a child that might have come from a combative environment, might have been born to an alcoholic, where some motor skills and so forth might have been compromised in that whole thing. Not to mention emotionally, and you can turn that around.
You can.
My thing is though, and again, I don't want to be the negative guy here, is that there's so many examples of this in this crazy world that a lot of people are getting lost in the cracks. Unfortunately, Regina.
They do. I will speak of my experience. I cannot speak about anybody else's experience. Let me just
sure.
bring you.
Right.
Like you said, I don't want to be the negative, but you're always going to be with me.
Yeah. I have to be the devil's advocate. Yeah. Pardon for saying that.
Well, if we, instead of being worried so much about everything that is happening at this length, and we start bringing things closer, it's so much easier to find hope around you if you look for it and if you're open to it than to try to look for it over there. Because one of the things about social media is like, and these are stories that are written. You can Google it or Bing it, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But you can
Bing
learn.
Yeah.
You can learn about what really is happening. Again, when I said earlier, I said we think we are so special, but we are not special, but we still are special. Well, we are not special because we're human. And because we have so many things in common and that they are made in common so we can relate to each other. So one thing that I love about this area is the services for children.
Incredible.
Insane.
Impeccable.
Older people and children, those two spectrums here have. This is heaven for
it really is.
It's just insane. Like I'm telling you, because I had 3 children. And one of my children needed help. a teacher, so I know. So she was in kindergarten, and
Yeah,
she's
sure.
model child. Like, oh my goodness, my girls are awesome. So I knew she needed some help. I did not stop bothering the system until my child got help. And it was simple thing. It was dyslexia. She has some type of dyslexia
Exactly.
that I saw
Right.
in kindergarten.
Right.
So what do? You start,
Took care of it right
yeah,
away.
fourth grade.
Right.
Is when she got the evaluation and all that. Why? Because she's such a good student.
Right,
Because
right.
she has her comprehension level is insane,
Right.
and all these things. So what do? You advocate for your child.
Sure.
You cannot. Parents sometimes feel like the teachers are greater than they are.
Right, exactly.
No, a teacher is a human being that went to school and learned some skills that half of them they don't use what they learn in school.
And there's a lot of students that got to take care of. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So you have to help your teacher,
Right.
help your child,
Right.
and be there for your child because it's a lot of work. So that's how you empower yourself. Oh, I only finished high school. What else do you need? We don't come with a map. A child doesn't come with a little booklet that tells
Manual.
you, okay, my name is so and so, and
Right.
you're gonna treat me like this,
Right.
and it's gonna produce this.
Right.
You have to love yourself enough
Right.
to address that you have issues. We have issues. Every single human has things to deal with.
Right.
I'm 54, like I mentioned. The way I was raised, it was a different mentality. I could tell you, my mom did things and my father did things that I'm like, what? Are you people crazy? But I cannot be holding that in my life because then it's going to put me in a place that I don't need to be. So you forgive and you deal and you
Right.
understand and you have empathy. Empathy for your parents
Right.
that went through things and had to do things the way they could do it. You
Based
don't-
on that time.
you don't have to excuse them. You have to have empathy because there's no excuse for a beating. There's no excuse. But that's what it was okay in that time. And you can call them savages and you can call them
No.
this. Well, I have some morals that you probably don't have today because
Right.
you didn't get a slap at time.
Right, right.
You know, those kind of things. So going back to self-empowerment, empathy empowers you. Forgiveness empowers you. It's not a cliche. It's the truth. The people that I had to forgive in my life at some point, I didn't forgive them for them. They don't even know. It's for me because I have all the things to use in my brain for. People say, oh, it's my heart. It's not your heart. It's your brain. Your brain have taken this incident, this memory, and have put it in that box, and that box is called hate, for example. And you have reasons for the hate, and you can. Oh, it's you. You have reasons for the hate, and you can have all the reasons in the world, and you could be right. But then you have the power to decide, what am I going to do with hate? Because hate is eating you up. The other person is happy, is probably dead already.
Right.
It's so crazy.
From things that are still embedded in your head that
Exactly.
you're banking on that and you remembered from when, years, in some cases, years later,
Exactly.
Regina.
When you ask me, and we talk a little bit about, I just did what I had to do with my kids, it's because I wasn't over there feeling like a statistic. And one of the things that when I began the church, that I received from the Lord is like, you are no longer a statistic. You broke all the statistics. You're a single mom. You're Hispanic.
Right.
I'm in two minorities already. They say it's minority.
Yeah.
Amen. I'm a divorced woman, a single. After you're divorced, you're single.
Right.
So
Sure.
and not ready to mingle. Divorced, single, Hispanic, brown.
Right.
You have an accent. I mean, all the statistics. I feel all of them. All of them. I got food stamps at the time.
Right.
Thank you, Jesus,
Yeah,
for
sure.
the food stamps.
Right.
But there was a day that I didn't need them
Didn't need
anymore.
it.
So I said, I don't want to apply for food stamps.
Right.
My kids are like, what, mommy, you're crazy. But I stopped because I don't need them anymore. And so forth. I live in housing for 20 some years. I'm going to share this experience with you.
Sure.
So the agency I work for, work with all pre-K is
Was it WIC?
no, pre-K.
Oh, sorry.
I
I'm
work
sorry,
with
sorry.
pre-K. So pre-K is barely, it's like 15 years old less pre-K, the pre-K program. Pre-K is a program that, like Head Start, Pre-K teaches 4 years old, but the socioeconomic environment is mixed. Head Start is for it's concentrating lower income.
Sure.
So they created pre-K because it just helps so much, especially with the qualifications they have now for kindergarten that are crazy. So pre-K was created. When pre-K came here, I was part of the first group of ladies that initiated pre-K in the area with a brilliant teacher. Name is Jill. And I learned so much. And it was 3 teachers in the classroom. Anyway, we had a mix of money in the classroom. We had
Poor.
children,
Middle class.
and then we had people that I went to their houses and I'm like,
Whoa.
what is this?
Right.
Why you need so much space?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
that gave me such a beautiful opportunity, because this mom that comes, the stranger that comes in the morning for the first time, is in the hall speaking with this mom that is poor. The rich mom with the poor mom. It was amazing in the way they could interact and conversate, because they have one thing in common. They have a child in pre-K.
Right, exactly.
And that child was part of 18 children that were there.
Sure.
And that part had to sit at a table to have snack with, all these things, all these dynamics. And it's fascinating. And you learn that this rich parent is not better
Or worse.
than the poor parent, because maybe this rich parent is going through a divorce.
Right.
Maybe she's a single mom. So you see all this amount of people just getting along together and just having that time. That's what I say about, like, you allow people to come to your bubble as much as you need.
Right.
If you want to give the phone number, hey, let's go have coffee, the rich and the poor, that's a choice that they have. They don't have to do it. The same, if you don't want to talk to anybody, you have the right to stay in the hall and don't speak. You don't have to, those kind of things. And I'm like, this can be done. You just have to think about it, and you just have to see it. So I had the opportunity to enrich my life and get out of these moments and these opportunities more empathy. I had an issue with a lady in the beginning because she was a military mom and she only had one child. Beautiful girl. Oh my gosh. The blondiest hair, the blue hair, beautiful girl.
Sure.
And this woman every day was complaining about her husband going to the field. Oh, I'm alone. I don't know why he leaves me, blah, blah, blah. And one day I had to, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I said, honey, did you know that I'm a single mom of 3 kids? And when I live here, I go to Ames in the mall in a bus to go work another job to make sure that I have what I need and I want in my family.
Sure.
And we had that conversation. She never complained again.
Isn't that something?
Another experience that I had where I work is, like I said, we go in every neighborhood and all that. So I hear one of my coworkers at that time speaking something not so kind about East Hills and some families and all that.
Right here in Watertown.
She had no idea I live in East Hills.
Gotcha.
So when she finished speaking, it wasn't nothing terrible, but it was something that she needed to know. I said, do you like me? I asked her,
And what did she say?
do you like me? And she said, of course, Regina, you're awesome. I love you, blah, 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 and all that. And I said, you know where I live? I live in East Hills.
What was the look on her face at that point?
Her face was sad.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh my goodness. I think it was a moment for her.
Right.
Because she realized that this woman that she loved so much, she loved me very much, and she was so kind to me. And we had such a great relationship. And live in the place that she was at that moment, it was probably an emotion in the moment that she was not so happy about at that moment. So I think it was the moment, because you can live in the most poor place and you don't have to live poor. You ask my kids and none of them, they're 25 and 28 years old, and they tell me, Mommy, we never thought we were poor. Never, ever. We were not in the poor scale and all that. We never felt that. And that happened because I wasn't a statistic.
Right.
I wasn't paired with my number
Right.
in the system. I was paired with, I need food stamp because if not, my kids will not eat good.
You weren't negligent. You were there for them. And here's the other thing: living in East Hills. By the way, you made the comparison East Hills to what were the conditions in Puerto Rico under the same circumstances was night and day. So we put the East Hills in the back burners, like, that's where the poor people live. You came from an environment where it was actually a step up, but it has nothing to do with that.
No.
And that your apartment with 2 bedrooms, whichever,
Four.
four bedrooms, which is incredible. By
It was
the way,
a castle.
Try finding a 4-bedroom apartment in this town for less than $1,000.
I've been
But here's
very
the point.
blessed.
Even if it was a mess, the building itself. Again, you watch movies like The Grapes of Wrath. Whenever they moved out from Oklahoma to California, wherever they stayed, it was a little shack, but they cleaned it up. So they made the best of it, and they sat down at the dinner table, different time, of course, and it was a movie, but it based on a different time. It's what you make of it. I know that's an old expression, and it's overused a lot of times, but you can live in a poor environment, and you can exist it as a poor person as well.
Yeah, I want to mention also things that influence. For example, a person that lives in low economic circumstances and is not as careful with their environment, is not clean and all that. Sometimes it's mental health.
Right.
Sometimes it's like I have an addiction to cigarettes, and so I rather buy cigarettes than Fabuloso to clean. And that's how they happen. So I am a firm believer, and I am praying to God that I become a millionaire one day, because I would like to go to places and teach people, this is how you can clean your house. You don't have to buy like what you see on TV. You can use vinegar. You can use baking soda. It's 59 cents, even at Walmart. Baking soda.
You sound like my mother. She used to take wallpaper off the walls with vinegar.
All those kind of things that we seem like, but you have to think like a person that doesn't have a lot of money, but also has other things helping them to stay in the same circle.
Right.
You can cook food and buy food, and you can make the best of a meal. Like I remember I could not buy shrimp when I got off of food stamps because I didn't have as much money, but I could buy my groceries. But when I was in food stamps, I eat shrimp and steak.
Wow, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because you need to use your money. And I was at a time of food stamp that they still have the bills.
Right,
oh
right,
my
right.
gosh, that was so awesome. Then they changed to the card.
Right,
But
right.
it's all about education. It's about possibilities. It's about also people to hear something else. You have to think. Like if you are in this environment and all you hear, your neighbor is like this, the other one like that, it's so easy to just go with the flow.
Right.
So if somebody comes and disrupt the pattern, a conversation is enough to disrupt somebody's pattern. The reason I speak, the reason I preach is because I believe that I have something to say that can contribute to your life somehow, some way. I don't have to decide how it is, because you have to decide that. You have to take that information. That's how I live my life. I speak, I read, everything that comes in my hands, I read, because I learn a little bit of everything, you know? Like I wish I could build a house or something like that, because I think that's important. I would like to practice with a hammer. A little bit of knowledge. You don't need to be this eminence in one subject. You just need to know that you have the capacity to change and bring change to your life yourself. You don't need to buy 10 books. You don't need to. That's another thing, the industry of books. I'm going to be writing a book soon. But people feel like if they don't have X, Y, and Z, they cannot make it.
They need.
And today is easier than any time in the world to make change and learn and transform your life.
So you're saying that, although it's important to know, different elements of how people, for instance, can teach you the personal empowerment like we're talking about today. It's really within us. I mean, it's simple stuff.
Yes.
But, again, we talked earlier, and we're getting down to the end here, but it's important to note that when people go out and get angry at something over nothing, where a spilled milk or something, or someone bumped into them, A lot of people will say, how can you get upset about that? Where in reality, they're already upset. Aren't they, Regina? Aren't they walking into that room with, I don't want to say attitude, but they're definitely not of a good spirit at that moment. That's why they go off on anything.
Let me just be very, very doctor-like.
Yeah.
It is being proven that anger is a reaction of pain. Behind anger, there's pain. Let's use dogs. I'm not a pet person.
Oh, okay.
You can have your own pet, love it.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah.
I had 3 kids. That's enough. But let's use the dog.
Dog is a big responsibility, by the way.
A dog that is hurt
Yeah.
will even bite you.
Yeah, sure.
Pain. Pain. So the most loyal thing that we have in our life, some people think the dog is the best thing in their life.
Right.
When it's in pain, when it's being hurt,
Right.
he's going to react differently because pain causes anger.
Right.
Because you don't know what to do. Your system goes in override. So you think about, there's people walking around right now, walking around the square, going to have lunch and all that, that have been molested, that have been mistreated. They're 50, 60 years old and have never dealt with that, have never acknowledged. Maybe they spoke up about the abuse or whatever trauma it is. Maybe they spoke up and nobody listened to them. So why would they speak again? That's the mentality. Honey, the reason you need to speak again, even to the air, is because what you keep in your mind and in your heart, what you keep inside, is controlling you, is manipulating you without you knowing. So that's what you need to speak. When you're 50, 60, 70, it doesn't matter. Even if you are in your deathbed, I have heard testimonies of people that have done terrible things in life, and they cannot die because they need to speak up the truth, and that frees them. There's a verse, the truth will set you free.
Are you talking about atonement for?
What is atonement?
Atonement is asking forgiveness for
Yep.
for something they did wrong. I mean, something that might be even criminal or.
I am more. I'm looking at the aspect of what you have lived. Like I said, I was a victim when I was a young child of molestation. When you don't deal with that, that's dealing with you.
Right.
You have to deal with that. You have to bring out. Because the decisions, you never lose the 1-year-old.
Right.
It's inside of you.
Right.
You said you're 59. That
Right.
1-year-old Glenn is walking with you.
Right,
You
forever.
may not remember,
Right.
but it's in you. Because we are formed with time and experiences. We are formed. We are shaped as a human. So when you don't deal with things that have shaped you, like that have hurt you, that pain is there. It makes you cynical. It makes you no hope. You have no hope.
Right.
Because at that moment you felt that you have no hope. Nobody listens to you. But when you don't eat properly, when you're not fed properly, you don't have to go to this spectrum of trauma that is like, only abuse. When you're not fed properly, when you are lacking clothing, when people bully you and you don't deal with the bully. I don't think, I mean, we can teach our kids to deal with bully. And we have power. And I think the social media has disempowered us. We look at Hollywood. When we hear Goldcast in Facebook that you go by and you hear, oh, this person went through so difficult situations and look where they are now.
Right,
They are millionaires. You don't have to be a millionaire. You can have a mentality of a millionaire. The difference between them and you is that they dealt with their stuff.
Right.
So that allows them to deal with other stuff. Not all of us are going to be millionaires. Not all of us are going to be like in this area of success. And I do like that because success is so relative. So we have to be the key to self-empowerment. For me, the beginning of self-empowerment is self-awareness. You need to be aware of who you have to ask yourself after you had grouchy day, go home and say, why was I so grouchy today? And ask why. Why do you walk this way? I can tell you the way I walk because I have thought about it. I have decided, you know what? Let me think about this. Let me think about why I speak like this. What influenced me? I'm saying this because, and I will tell you
Right.
why I say this.
Right.
Why do I think like this? Sometimes I have to change the way I think
Right.
because that reasoning is no longer valid. So I have to change the way I think because I receive new information. One of the things I do, because I'm a pastor, a preacher,
Yeah.
and I'm a woman, and there's Christianity, there's so many pastors against women's preaching and pastors. So I listen to them. I want to know why they think like that.
What they say.
Why they say, well, they say many things. They use a couple verses in the Bible, the one that Paul said that a woman should not teach men and all these things. And I'm like, and none of the
No, that doesn't make
the
it.
case,
Jesus didn't want that, by the way.
Yeah.
That happened a century
I mean,
after
like,
he died. Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
so I listen to what because I want to know why they think like that. First of all, when I began doing that is because I'm like, if I'm doing something wrong to my God, something that is not pleasing to him, I don't want to be in the pulpit either. I always like to be behind the cameras. But I have not found yet something that tells me different. So I'm going to keep going, doing what I'm doing with the backup of God. But yeah, look for things that are contrary to what you think and learn from them. Do not read something that you don't agree with and just start picking at it.
Yeah.
Listen.
Right.
Let's listen to each other. Okay.
No doubt. I tell you, this is good because we are at the end of the second program for Regina Says, talking about personal empowerment. But you know what? At any given time, we could talk every week forever. And at the end of the day, personal empowerment is still the ongoing theme.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
that's never
going
gonna
to change.
No.
So one last question. How do we start on a Monday, or how do we start? Do we have an epiphany? Do we have a reckoning and realize today is the day, or is it a gradual thing, in your opinion?
I think it's a decision. And that's how you empower yourself. Make a decision. Right now.
Quit smoking right away.
I did.
Yeah. I mean,
know,
like cold turkey, or I did.
No, I think everybody, and that's what I said. You are not that special, but you are special because you have to deal. I think that just the decision, like I need to be more aware of myself. That's a decision. I'm not even caring about the other.
Right.
Because when you start loving yourself for who you are,
Right.
because you don't, like you asked me, like, why it's so difficult? Because you cannot leave this anywhere.
Right.
It goes with you.
Right.
It goes with the person that have mental health.
Right.
It's mental.
Right.
It's in the mind. So when you are able to make that decision to be aware of you and start liking you, your life changes. Jesus said the following: this first commandment is to love God with all your mind, all your heart, etc. I want to go to the second part. He says, I give you a new command, that you love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
The beauty of that command is that if you don't love yourself, you cannot love your neighbor. The first step is to love yourself. And it sounds selfish, it's crazy.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds selfish, but it's not.
No, it's not.
Because you have a purpose. I want to love myself so I can love better.
Right.
Not my neighbor, the person in the street, family. If I did not do that, I could not love my children the way I do. And the way I love my children is like I want them to be able to have an adult life that is the best adult life they could have. That was my job. That was my focus. It wasn't like, I want them to go to college.
Right.
None of my kids went to college. I went to college, but I didn't instill in them to go to college. That was a decision they have to make because I'm not going to college for them.
Right.
Those kind of things. So you are not a selfish parent because you like yourself and you're growing into yourself. And it's not something that is like, the end of the world. It's something that you practice. But it begins with a decision. I am going to be more aware of myself. And from there, you keep going.
Excellent stuff, as always, and we will continue this, and hopefully we'll have more episodes on a weekly and or bi-weekly basis, because it's very good. Regina Says here, how can people get in contact with you? And tell us some information about both your church and your restaurant.
So Nueva Vida Christian Church is located in 8727 Evans Mills, New York. You can send me a message in Facebook, and we have Open Book is the page for messages. We have content in Spanish. We have content in English.
Right.
My restaurant is also in Evans Mills in the same building called Pan de Vida, Puerto Rican food.
And it's all part of the, obviously, North Country community, but a big part of Fort Drum community.
Yes. We have a lot of people in Fort Drum. And I have a personal phone number that is being around for many, many years. People know it is 315-955-8255. If you send me a text, I can answer you.
Regina, thank you very much for Regina
Thank you.
Says here on the second installment here from the H2O Studios. I'm Glenn Curry, and we'll just say hi and just remember to follow and like Regina as noted throughout today's video. And
Thank
we'll
you.
talk to you guys soon. One last look at Public Square here on a Tuesday morning on the 9th of February, of November 2021. Everyone have a great day.
Yes.
Talk to you guys soon.